Okay, so welcome back, and we continue discussion from the last lecture, where we stressed on the fact that we want to go from the mode of studying to learning, from the mode of gathering information to receiving knowledge, and that is what also our national education policy 2020 has stressed upon. And the way we can go we can achieve this and go towards this direction of going from information to knowledge is taking the road of wonder to wisdom, which Socrates had long before, had many thousands of years ago, so around 2500 years ago, had said famously. Of course, he has said it in Greek, but we have translated it in English for you. So wisdom begins in wonder, and we all know that. So our intention here is to bring back that lost ability, if I can say lost ability, of wondering. So why I say it lost, because we all had this faculty to wonder at things around us. When we are kids, when we are children, we used to wonder at everything around us, and we used to have an inquisitive mind. We used to question everything. So why this, why that, why it happens, how it happens. We all used to have so many questions, and some of them were answered, some of them may not have been answered, and some of them we have forgotten about it, we have left it away. Some of them we have pursued on our own, and that had led to some more answers. And this is how we have become knowledgeable, more and more knowledgeable, only by sticking to a question and wondering upon some experience or some fact that we have encountered upon. So only that wonder has led to the wisdom. So it happened for everyone, it happened for us also, and this is a truth, and that's why this has been well recognized all over the world. So what that statement, wisdom leads to wonder, this is a truth. This happens every time. So whenever we wonder and whenever we pursue that wonder, we we will become wise, because the answer will reveal itself to us, and when that revelation happens, we will become wise. So in the last lecture, we focused on the abilities of the student, or the faculties of the student, that the students need to have, or the students need to develop within them, or shall I say reignite within them, because I feel that these faculties are inherent within us, and in the process of time perhaps we have lost this, or it has been dormant, and we need to wake it up, we need to reignite it. So these faculties of wondering, these faculties of being inquisitive, and this approach of inquiry, so this is inherent to each human being. So we need to bring it up again, and that is how we will be able to transform the knowledge, transform the information presented to us, and make it into knowledge, and we will become a knowledgeable person rather than just a person with a heap of information. So information can be reproduced, so like we sometimes reproduce information in exam sheets, but that does not mean we are knowledgeable in that particular subject. That so many subjects we have learned, we can all say with like this won't be untrue if we say that we are not knowledgeable in all those subjects. We are knowledgeable in one or two of those subjects perhaps, and the others we had been very successfully reproduce the information that was provided to us into the exam papers and we got good marks, but that does not mean we are experts or we are in any way knowledgeable in those subjects. But there are some one or two subjects which we feel, we know that we are quite capable in dealing with. Those subjects we had made a conscious inquiry into those subjects, only then it has led to the wisdom. So we are wise in that subject. So you can judge yourself, you can look back at yourself, reflect upon yourself. This is true for each one of us. We when we have when the subjects or the things in which we feel ourselves to be of some value, those are the subjects into which we have put our inquiry, into which we have put our wonder, into which we have put our passionate interest. That's why we have become knowledgeable in those subjects, and we feel ourselves to have to hold some value or hold some knowledge in that subject. So that is how information gets transformed to knowledge. So that is the faculty which we stressed on in the last day. So that light which is inside all of us, that light needs to be that light needs to be lit up, and that light would shine upon the information which is outside you and make it knowledge and take it inside you and make you a knowledgeable person, a wiser person. So there is a shloka in Sanskrit which I remember, and I want to just highlight that shloka, and this is very contextual. It says, like, it goes on like this: Yasya nasti sayang pragya shastram tasya karoti kim लोचनाभ्याम विहीनस्य darpanah kim karishyati. So I have if you know some bit of Sanskrit or perhaps Hindi also, so you will understand what this is trying to say. So it says that if yasya nasti sayang pragya, means sayang means myself, pragya means that light which I am talking about. Pragya is it's very difficult, very hard to translate it into English. So pragya is a certain wisdom sort of a thing. So one has to have that inherent ability of inherent light within oneself. Only then they can understand something. So this shastram tasya karoti kim, shastram is the body of knowledge. Shastram is basically a system of knowledge. So it can be a scientific knowledge, it can be a philosophical knowledge, it can be any sort of knowledge. It is a system of knowledge. So we, in our ancient times, we had knowledge divided into different shastras. So each of the shastras dealt with a different type of knowledge. So these are the shastras. So if you do, so the first line of the shloka is saying that if you don't have that light within you, the knowledge system, what can it do? So shastram tasya karoti kim. Karoti kim means what can it do? So the shastra, what can it do? It is asking. So if you don't have the light within you, this knowledge system can't do anything. That is what it is saying, and it compares it to a fact as like this statement is alone is self-sufficient. However, like this is a shlokas are like poetries. So and the poets who have written this also want to highlight the fact by comparing it to something analogous. So what is the comparison that has been done? Lochanabhyam vihinasya. Lochan means eyes. Lochan Lochanabhyam means the both of the eyes. Vihinasya, there is vihinasya means it is not there. Vihin, so it is absent. So if the eyes are absent, darpanaha kim karishyati. Darpanaha means mirror. Mirror, what can it do? Kim karishyati, again it is saying the same thing. What can it do? So if you don't have eyes, the mirror is useless. What is the purpose of a mirror? We see ourselves in the mirror, we see things in the mirror, but if we don't have the eyes, what can we see? So that is what the shloka says. So we need to have that light within us. So only then our knowledge system that is presented before us will give us something. Otherwise it is useless. Otherwise it is as useless as the mirror to a blind person. So that is what it is saying. And this is written so long ago, so it is in the Vedic eras. So I don't know what is the date of this Vedic age. Perhaps, if I am not very much mistaken, maybe 5,000 years, like that it is. The dates go back like that. So such a long time ago, the same wisdom had been revealed to those people, which had been revealed to great philosophers and great thinkers in the years that have come, in the ages that have come, even up to this modern age. So we can consider Swami Vivekananda quite a person of a modern age. So even he has understood this, and of course he had a training of in the Shastras, so he had an understanding of the philosophies which the great sages of our ancient India had revealed to us. So this revelation had happened throughout ages, and when a revelation happens throughout ages, it can be considered as a truth. So it is timeless then. This is ageless. This truth is ageless. So again, reiterating the fact that you need to recultivate that nature of nature of wondering, that inherent nature of wondering that we used to have when we were children. We need to bring it back. That mode of inquiry we need to bring back. That mode of that being inquisitive, that ability to be inquisitive, those things we need to bring back. So only then any subject that is presented to you will give you some meaning. Otherwise they will just be information lying around. So with that, I start this lecture, and in this lecture I am trying to focus on what the role of the teacher is in all this. So we now know what the student is supposed to do and what is the role of the teacher. So this is what Socrates had said, that they cannot teach anybody anything, they can only make them think. So I am also trying to make you think, to make you reflect back on your own lives and understand your own life, and understand this whole process of going from information to knowledge, from studying to learning. So you have done it already. So if you understand the process, you have done it already for one or two of the subjects, and if you understand the process, then you will be able to implement this process consciously into most of the subjects, if not all of the subjects that you are studying. And this will make you an expert in all of these subjects, all of these different subjects that is available to you. It will make you a wise person, it will make you knowledgeable in these subjects. So that is the intention that one should have, not just get a degree. A degree can be got just by copying, just by reproducing information in exam sheets, but that is not the purpose here. So the purpose is different, the purpose is greater. Have that greater purpose in you, and you can make it, because you had made before. You had that ability, you still have that ability, but perhaps that ability is directed only in a few different subjects and a few different things. But you can do it for all the different things or most of the different things that is around you. And so again, reiterating what Swami Vivekananda had said, and this is the same thing which he says, that all knowledge is self knowledge, because our own inner light shines upon the information to make it knowledge. So what is the role of the teacher? The role of a teacher is to point the student inwards, and that is where it ends. So this is what Swami Vivekananda says. And uh, I would say that I have already pointed you inwards, because that is what I'm doing all this time. I'm trying to show you what is within you and trying to bring that faculty up. So that inquisitive nature, that those things I am trying to bring those things out. So that is what I am already trying to point you inwards. So does it mean that my role has ended now? So I have already pointed you inwards, and now I don't have any other responsibility on this subject. So this is some point where the students in the class would start laughing, and I will also laugh with them. But this is not where it ends. So this is where it actually begins. So I have pointed you in words, but I have not provided you with some definite roadmap how you can go about it. So that is what the role of the teacher is also there. So the role of the teacher is not just to provide the notes and the information, but to guide the student in a way that their inherent inner potential, that inner light, is gradually shining more and more and more. So that is the role of the teacher as per me. So he says, Swami Vivekananda says that we need to point the student inwards. So now the responsibility is on us. So when Swami Vivekananda or the other great uh, thinkers had said that the job of the teacher is to point the student inwards, then the teacher must start thinking, how? How do I point the student inwards? Because every tool in the hand of the teacher is external to the student. Isn't it so? So you think about it carefully. What are the tools in the hands of the teacher? Either books, notes, blackboard, online lecture. So all these things are external to the students. So how is the teacher supposed to use all these things to point the student inwards? So it's a very challenging job now. Suddenly this has become a very challenging job. So I could have simply given you the books and the blackboard teachings, or online teachings, notes, all these things I could have just given you, and you would have learned and you would have passed the exams, and everything would have gone the way that it normally goes. But suddenly I have taken it upon myself, a challenge which seems to be very odd, and suddenly it does not that lead me to anywhere. So how am I supposed to do that? So this is a question now I ask myself, and you can also ask me. So how are you going to do this? So your job is, sir, your job is to point us inwards. So how now you will be able to do that? So that is a question now. So when we think again on this matter of what is inside us, inside the students, or as a matter of fact, inside each one of us. The student is not you. The student is every human being is a student. Every human being is presented with information all the time. Is he able to successfully convert or transform that information into knowledge and make themselves wiser? That is the question. So what is inside every human being? Yeah, this is inside every human being. The most advanced organ in this world, the brain, the human brain. The human brain is such a capable organ that scientists still don't know what it is, what are the limits of its capability. There seems to be no limit. So the way and the more you train it, the more it gets trained. There is no limit, absolutely no limit to what it can do. So there is I read about this somewhere, about brain research, that if you the brain is such a capable organ that if you like I would use the word plug in, but probably it is not as simple as that. So if you plug in a sensory device into the brain will be able to understand what to sense. So it is such a capable organ. So if I attach attach eyes to the brain somewhere, so the brain will be able to understand that the eyes are meant for receiving light. If I attach ears to the brain, it will be able to understand that the ears are there for hearing. So this is the ability of the brain. So it readily recognizes the whatever is associated with it. It readily recognizes it in terms of its function. It will never try to make the eye use the eye for hearing things. Like the eye cannot hear things, obviously, but it will automatically recognize what the eye is capable of, and it will support that capability. It will help the eye manifest that capability using itself, using the brain. So this is how capable it is. And there had been also much experiments. This is much more popular. I am sure you know of cyborgs. Cyborgs are human beings with some mechanical or artificial limbs, or some mechanical device or some artificial device attached to the human body and directly connected to the brain, directly or indirectly connected to the brain. The point is that the brain controls that device. So even though it is not human body as such, it is the brain is able to control it, because it is that device is attached or attached directly or indirectly to the brain. So the brain is such a capable organ. So whatever you connect to it, it is able to make it work, and it knows how to make it work. It just needs one or two trials, and with those trials it understands what are the abilities of this external object that is attached to me, and it is able to make it work. So isn't that wondrous? So isn't that powerful? So if there is some power, if there is some ability, there is something of real capacity, so that is what our human brain is. So I don't know what can beat it. I don't know. So this is what is inside all of us. This is what is inside each one of us. So what is holding us back? What is holding us back? Only our attitude. Only our attitude to use this brain or not use this brain. So the brain sustains, when you think about it, the brain sustains on inquiry, on challenging itself, posing questions. So all these things give the spark within the brain and make it active, keep it active. So we have to consciously be conscious that our brains don't sleep off. What I mean by this, they don't become dull. they always remain active, and they always face some challenge. They always, the brain thrives on challenge. So only when you challenge it, it will make more connections within between the neurons that it have, and literally there is spark between the neurons. So that spark is what we need to create within our brains. So the more the spark within the brains, the better this information will be received and transformed into knowledge within us. So that is what is inside us, and we need to be aware of it. So inside us is this wondrous organ with so much of power. And what are the powers? The power to observe, the power to question, the power to reason, and the power to learn. These are powers, because other animals probably don't do all these things. They don't observe, they just see. Even most of human beings only see, only experience, but they don't observe. What is observation? Observation is to understand the features of a problem. So something happened, so we all see that something happened. We all see that the apple fell down the apple tree. Only Sir Isaac Newton observed it. So this is the example I can put forward to you. So everyone saw that the apple fell from the tree. Everyone knew that if something we push up the air, it falls down. This is a natural phenomenon, and it's a natural experience. We didn't observe it. Sir Isaac Newton observed it, and he tried to understand what is happening. So observation is going deeper into the going deeper than experiencing, going deeper than just seeing or hearing. Observation is a deeper understanding of the phenomenon. So here phenomenon has been written as problem. So it is a deeper understanding of that problem. So Sir Isaac Newton understood that this is happening for all the things. So there must be some uniting approach, or some unifying some unified thing happening to all these different objects. So he posed the question, what is that unifying thing that is happening to all the objects? So all the objects are falling down towards the surface of the earth. So what is there which makes it fall down to the surface of the earth? So this is a question that also comes up from within us. So this is the spirit of inquiry. So observation can be thought of as the first level, which is the level of wonder, first level of wonder. So question also comes in the level of wonder, perhaps. So the first level of wonder is to observe. So you observe something, you observe it deeper, and then you have a question, how it happens. So how it happens, or what exactly is this? So these are the questions which comes in our mind, and then we reason by weighing different possible answers to this question. So when we try to dig deep with the question, first thing what comes in our mind are all the known possibilities. There is something known already in the knowledge system. So is this phenomenon happening because of this known thing? So we analyze, and then we find out, no, it is not because of this. So then we pick up another known thing and try to see whether this phenomenon is happening due to that known thing. Again we say that no, it is not due to that known thing. So in this way we try to reason through all the possibilities that is there. And in this while with this reasoning, sometimes we discover new possibilities. Sometimes we discover, we like discovering is not a new thing, because that thing is already present, we only discover it, so it is not a new thing. So we discover something. And so in this process of reasoning, we sometimes discover a fact, a natural law, we discover something. Sometimes we innovate something, also innovate something new. So this is the phase of reasoning. This is a phase of reasoning. So Sir Isaac Newton discovered the law of gravitation, and eventually Sir Isaac Newton also discovered the laws of mechanics. So the laws of kinematics, the laws of motion, those things also developed. And eventually in the same in the same channel of inquiry, or should I say in the same state of inquiry, he developed something which is more marvelous to me personally, which is more marvelous than these laws of physics, which is the discovery of calculus. So calculus is perhaps the greatest gift of mathematics, one of the greatest gifts of in mathematics that we all have with us. That calculus itself is such a powerful tool, and Sir Isaac Newton developed that. So this is the real contribution of Sir Isaac Newton. As we know that his laws of motion and his law of gravitation were later on superseded by something more precise, which is given by Albert Einstein, and the laws got modified, or one can say a more general version of that law was proposed by Einstein. However, the real contribution of calculus is still there, and it will always be there, because once a maths is established, maths is like truth. So that will always be there. So that once a certain truth has been established by Sir Isaac Newton. So that is the real contribution of this great genius. And so this is a part of reasoning. So there are different possible answers, and we go through these answers, and we challenge our brain. So this is where the brain is getting challenged. So is this the answer to the question? No. That the answer to the question? No. Then what is the answer to the question? Is it already available? If it is no, then we have to discover that answer. We have to discover, we have to invent. So these things are then coming up. So this is challenging our brains. So once we get the answer, then we learn. So if we go through all this process, then only the information which we observed, so I can perhaps write this here. So this is where the information, info, and this info flowed down as this info was observed and questioned and then reasoned with, and then we learn, and then it becomes knowledge. So this is the steps through which information becomes knowledge. So we have to observe it well, then we have to question that, we have to reason through different possibilities, and perhaps come up with a new possibility, and that leads to learning, that leads to gaining knowledge, which leading to clarity and wisdom. So this is the power that is already there in the brain. So these are the things that we can do with the help of the brain. All of this: observation, questioning, reasoning, and learning. This is what happens, what can happen within the brain. We all have this power. The question is whether we are using all of these steps in all the situations or not. Of course, we are not using all these four steps in all the situations. We are not. But what we want to do is to use these more and more. So the more and more we can use, we will be able to use all these four steps. The more and more we will become wiser, the more and more we will become knowledgeable. And the next slide was already revealed, so let us go to that slide. And that slide this lets us correspond these faculties of observation, questioning, reasoning, and learning to the four Purusharthas which has been stated in our ancient philosophical texts. So what is Purushartha? Perhaps some of you know about Purushartha. Purushartha literally translates to the human purpose. Purusha, human; Artha, purpose. Purushartha is the human purpose. So the meaning, Artha, can be also translated as meaning. What is the meaning of being a human being? So why a human being? So it is like that. Purushartha, the human purpose, the meaning of being human. So that, as has been written down, as has been philosophized or discovered or recognized by ancient philosophers of India, are these four, comes through these four pillars of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So what they are trying to say is, when we pass through these four pillars of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, or when we hold something up with these four pillars, only then that becomes purposeful, that gives some purpose in our life, that gives some meaning to our life. So these are the dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So I will just go briefly into this, because this is a very important understanding that one could have with themselves, and this serves also as a way to living our lives, the perfect way of living this human life, as recognized by the great thinkers of ancient India. So this is actually a great thought that had been put down, and if one goes through it, if one thinks about it and reflects upon it, they will also understand how why this actually makes a complete a complete life. So Purushartha, one who lives a life of Purushartha, lives a complete life. That is how it goes. That is how the statement goes. So he lives a complete life. So this dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, these are the four pillars of Purushartha. So what is dharma? So dharma is basically an attribute. Dharma is an attribute. So when we talk of dharma, we are basically the question that is posed is like this: what is the dharma of a particular thing or a particular animal? So like I can ask you, what is the dharma of fire? What is the dharma of water? What is the dharma of a tiger? So this is how dharma is used in language. So dharma is Actually, what we are trying to ask is, what is the distinguishing feature of that particular object in question. So here the object is basically the problem in question. The problem in question is can be referred to as the object. So we want to understand the features of the problem. So that is what is dharma. We want to know the nature of the problem, the dharma of that problem. So we are going through the principle, to the first pillar of Purushartha when we are observing something. So when we are observing something, when we are observing the features of a problem, we are trying to understand the dharma of that particular problem. So when we can extract that distinguishing feature, then the problem is almost solved, because we already have gained some understanding regarding that problem, and some understanding which is distinct, very distinct to that particular problem. So dharma, that this word distinct is important. Dharma is a distinguishing feature. So I can say that that milk is white, but there are so many things which are white. So white, being white, is not dharma of the milk. So the dharma of the milk must be something which you can only get in milk. So that is how precise you have to be when you try to understand what the dharma of a particular thing is. So dharma is defined like that. It is a distinguishing feature. It is a distinguishing feature of a certain thing, of a certain, in this matter, a certain problem. So nowadays what science is trying to do, science is trying to understand the dharma of each and every different thing in this world. So they are trying to understand the distinguishing feature, the distinct feature which separates a particular thing out from all the other different things. So that is what science is trying to understand, and that had been the mode of inquiry in our ancient civilization, ancient Indian civilization as well. In the Vedic civilization, dharma is something which is a very well known word, and the meaning of dharma is actually this. It is the distinguishing feature of a certain object. And the Vedic civilization did not restrict objects to only non-living objects. They also included everything. So whatever they were seeing around them, they included all that thing, and they tried to understand the dharma of each of them to the level that they could go. At that time probably we did not have so much sophisticated microscopes and all, so they could not drill down to such great deep levels as we can do right now, but the mode of inquiry was the same. That is what I want to highlight here as well. So the mode of inquiry, that is to understand a certain thing by distinguishing it from all the other things. This is the mode of inquiry that was pursued even that time, and it is the main mode of inquiry that is pursued even now. So this is the scientific mode of inquiry. So this scientific mode of inquiry had been pursued in our ancient civilization as well. So one needs to realize this. So we many a times we say that we had science, we had so much things, but if we ask someone what exactly is the science that we had, so perhaps we did not have the innovations and the scientific knowledge that we have right now, but we always had the scientific mode of inquiry that is persistent. And with that scientific mode of inquiry, we had the ancient Indians were able to solve many problems in their lives, and were able to lead a very nice civilization. And at some point of time, the Indian civilization was known to be the greatest in the world. So, and it generated a lot of economy as well. So I think 1/3 of the world's economy was generated during the time of Chandragupta. So, the knowledge system that had been there must have had some value in it. That right at this age, it might have lost some value, or I would say that there are some knowledge system which has more value than that previous knowledge system. However, there are some values in that knowledge system as well, which had not been which the modern knowledge systems had not been able to supersede. So those values are still present. So the modern knowledge system may have given rise to better scientific explanations, better innovations, and all, which were not there in the past. However, the philosophical ideals, the question, the question towards our existence, the purpose of our existence, the study of, or the understanding of ourself, the realization of self, this sort of questions were carried out in our ancient times to a much to such deeper levels that those answers and those revelations had not been able to be superseded by any modern philosophical discourse. So they are still relevant, and they are the systems of knowledge. They are the knowledge that we can benefit from our ancient sages. So those knowledges are the ones that can actually bring in some light and give in some real contribution to our lives, still being relevant. So anyway, I have gone a bit far from what discussing the dharma. So that is what the dharma is, a distinguishing feature of a particular object. And then comes artha. What is artha? Artha, you can say artha is the means. So artha, loosely we suppose that artha is money, but artha is not money as such. Artha is means. Money is a mean, is something which enables us. Artha is something which enables us, is a means towards something. So we have to go from one place to another. We must have the money to travel. But if we can travel by some other means, if someone gives us a ride in their car, can't we go from that place to that place A to place B? We can. So that is the artha there, that is the means. So if we had the money, we could have booked a cab. If we don't have the money, or if we have the money but someone gives us a lift, free ride, then also we can go from that place to another place. So this is what is artha. Artha is a means towards going from one thing to another thing. So when we have crossed the level of dharma, understanding the features of the problem, then we come to the level of artha, which is the means to understand deeper into the problem. So the means is nothing but questioning, and questioning. Whatever is in the status quo, we have to challenge that. We have to doubt that. So doubting perspectives, challenging the status quo, is the artha towards making the information to knowledge. So that is the artha. So this is the second pillar through which we go, by questioning and doubting the present status quo and perspectives. So I already pointed you the power of perspective. So if the one perspective is not leading us to answers, we can and we should doubt that perspective. And if we change that perspective, suddenly the answer reveals itself in front of us. This can happen, this happens all the time. So after artha comes the next pillar of kama. So kama, most of you have an idea that kama is pleasure, or sometimes you also have the idea that the kama is a sexual pleasure. However, kama is pleasure as such, only something which gives us some happiness, some feeling of goodness. So that is kama. So one needs kama in their life to make it a fulfilled life. So one cannot be always stubborn and grave and always asking for dharma. What is the dharma of something? How I can do this? Finding out the artha, and moksha, as you know, is liberation. Always thinking about liberation. That makes a very dry life. So as such, kama is the thing which gives in the fluidity to that life, the rasa to that life. So kama is that happiness, that positive feelings that we generate within us. So these are the things that we can combinedly call as kama. So this is kama. This is something, a desire sort of a thing. Kama is also translated as desire. So however, kama is the happiness that we get from those things. So this is the pillar which gives us, which makes our lives have some I am not finding the exact equivalent of the word rasa. So I hope you understand what rasa means. Some degree of enlivenness into our life. So those are the things which combine, and we can call that kama. Why kama is associated with the power to reason? Because if you reflect back on, you have reasoned on many different things. At you must have reasoned, must have weighed different possibilities. So when we are weighing different possibilities, we inherently develop some sort of a happiness, or some sort of a feeling, some sort of a positive feeling, which feeds us in some way. So which feeds our which feeds our what should I say, which feeds our sense, which feeds our senses. Yeah, so which feeds our senses. However, these senses are not the five senses that we know of. These are some inner sense, some inner feelings of happiness, or some inner feeling of joy that comes within us when we are weighing different possibilities. So shall I do this? So we suddenly have a lot of ideas on how we will do this, and how we will enjoy that thing, and then suddenly we have another possibility. So we again like leave that possibility in our own mind, and that creates some pleasurable reactions within us. So this pleasure, or maybe even we think about possibility which will give us displeasure, but that also is something which we try to experience. So that experiencing those feelings, that experience we can term as kama. So this reasoning, this activity of reasoning, and this reasoning is a power that the brain is having. So this is leading us to fulfillment of kama, the third pillar of Purushartha. And once we have reasoned through all of the options, all of the different options, and we gain knowledge leading to clarity and wisdom, this is the stage of moksha. Moksha means liberation, emancipation, getting rid of something, liberated of something. So you are liberated of this problem which you started with. So, this problem that you started with, you are now liberated of this nagging problem that was nagging you, because you had gained the knowledge and clarity about this problem. So once that problem is solved, once a problem is solved, you get liberated from that problem. So that is, you attain moksha from that problem. So if I can state this at this juncture, maybe it is a bit too higher thing to say, but this is the same thing when you come to the question of the human life. So the human life is a problem, and when you go through all these stages and finally attain moksha from the human life, so the problem of a human life is no more. So you attain moksha from it. So that is what our philosophers, our sages had tried to inspire us towards achieving moksha from this human life, because they have recognized that the human life itself is a problem to be solved. So when you solve that problem, going through the stages of dharma, artha, kama and moksha, you can actually solve this problem going through these different stages, these four pillars of purushartha. And when you reach the stage of moksha, you get liberated from this problem of the human life. And what they say is that you will not be coming back into this cycle of reincarnation and all, but that is something else, and that requires some belief or some more understanding into it. So reincarnation is not in the thought process of every human being, but the problem of human life is a very can be well formed. So this human life is riddled with problems. So this human life itself can be termed as a problem, and if you go through all these things, you can actually get liberated from this problem. So that is where moksha comes. And like coming back to any problem, so any problem or any event or any information that is presented to us, to transform that information into knowledge, we have to go through all these four stages, and we go through these four stages even though we may not be aware of it. So these four stages are always present. Now when we have become aware of these four stages, these four pillars of purushartha, what I suggest practically to test whether these four pillars are really working, you can think of some problem, or you can think of something and try to go through all these four pillars. Try to understand the distinguishing features of that problem. Try to find out the ways, try to question, then try to question about this problem. Try to reason different possibilities and gain clarity. You can go through all these processes, all these four processes one by one. You will you will find that you can do that, and in the same time you will understand the significance of this great concept of purushartha that had been laid down by our ancient philosophers. So we already stressed this fact that going through these four pillars for any problem, for any situation, in any situation, in analyzing anything in your life, if you pass that entire thing through these four pillars of dharma, artha, kama and moksha, you will be you will solve that problem, you will be liberated from that problem, and it will make your entire life a complete life. So that is the power of this great concept of purushartha. So this makes a complete life. So that is why it is called the human purpose. So a purposeful human being is supposed to live through these four pillars, live by these four pillars. So they must hold on to dharma, they must find artha, they must find kama, and they must find moksha. So that is how the entire design of life had been had also been formed actually. So if I will not stress on this particular aspect more, but I will just highlight this. Perhaps some of you know of the Chaturashram system that had been followed in our ancient India. If you know of the Chaturashram system, you can very well identify that the four ashramas are correspond to these four pillars. The first to the pillar of dharma, second to artha, third to kama, and fourth to moksha. So the four pillars correspond to the Chaturashram, and there are many other different things to which these four pillars correspond to. So I will not stress on this fact any further, and will just go ahead and try to understand how do we gain these superpowers. So we have highlighted that these are the powers of our brain, these four powers of observing, of questioning, of reasoning, and learning, which are nothing but dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So how do we develop this power? How do we develop this power? For developing this power, we have to start thinking and reflecting. Start thinking about anything, any problem that you face in your own life, in someone else's life, a general social problem. So you think about that problem and you reflect on that problem. So then by only when you do that, when you try to dig deeper, you will pass through these four pillars, and then it will lead you to clarity. And at the same time, these four faculties of observation, of questioning, of reasoning, and learning, these four things will get developed within you. So this is a person who is very well known in West Bengal and in the eastern side of our country. He is also a very well known filmmaker of India. Perhaps you know his name. His name is Ritik Ghatak, even if you did not know his face before this presentation. So he had made a lot of thought provoking uh, feature films, and one of his very famous statement is this: think, practice thinking. So he had observed that the intellectuals of Bengal at some point of time had stopped thinking at all, and only they were reiterating and reliving whatever the intellectuals of the past had given to them, so that the new thinking, new thought, new analysis was getting absent from the intellectual circle of West Bengal. And he prompted and he made a call to all of them to start thinking once again. So this is the call that is relevant all the time, and it will be relevant through all the ages, because we now even we see that there are many problems which happens in our own personal lives as well as in the society, because we know that there is a lack of thinking. So if we had thought about that problem, if we had reflected, if we had sat back and reflected, then that problem may not have arisen at the first place. So how do we go into the practice of thinking? So you pick up anything. So you can do this. You can do this at your sitting at your home. You can do this as a practical exercise. You pick up anything, find your own problem, then you have to go through some structure. So like the problem might be oriented towards some events or some facts, or it may be some personal problem. What is the thinking part? The thinking part is asking the questions. Why? Why this happened? What exactly is this? How how uh, how can I make it better? How can this be made better? So this sort of questions are there. So you can ask these questions one after another. You ask why, you ask what, you ask how, regarding the same thing. So when you ask these different questions, you are trying to, you are actually shifting perspectives. So the more you question, the more you look at the same problem from different perspectives. And as we had already highlighted the power of perspective, it will lead you to some answers. If you are not getting some answer, targeting it from one perspective, don't stick to that. Change your perspective, change your question, change from why to what, from what to how, and uh, and change the question. So that is what I want to say here. So change the question. So most of the problems that happen to us in our personal life, if we reflect back, whenever we felt hurt or whenever we felt dejected, we were asking one particular question only. We did not shift the perspective. We mostly what we ask, why this happened to me? So and we keep on asking this same question, why this happened to me, why this happened to me, why this happened to me. We don't change the question. We don't change the question. We can ask, what else could have happened to me? We could ask, how I can how I can I can remain calm even though the same thing happens to me. So these are different questions that can be asked in the context of the same event. So we forget about all these different questions. So what do we forget? We forget thinking. We forget the act of thinking. Only one question comes to us and we stick there, and it goes in a rut. Our mind goes in a rut. So we have to consciously take our minds out of that rut. Our brain is not supposed to dull down. It has immense power. Only we need to put it in perspective. We need to be conscious about it. And we can change the perspective by changing the question, and immediately it will give rise to some other answer than just feeling so taken down about some matter. And this is not just for personal matters, also for any event and fact, any social thing that you see and it bothers you. You just change the question. It might give you some new answer. And when the answer comes, you immediately gain knowledge, leading to clarity, leading to experience, wisdom. Experience is wisdom, leading to clarity, leading to wisdom, and leading to liberation from that nagging question, leading to liberation from that being hurt or something like that. So when you gain the knowledge, next time the same thing happens to you, you will see, you will notice that you will not be hurt anymore. If you actually be actually can get the wisdom from asking through all these questions, you become wiser, you become more knowledgeable, and you are liberated from that particular problem. So the same problem happens to you, the same thing happens to you again, the same thing which had made you feel bad so many times in your life. Once you are liberated from there, it will lose its power over you. It will lose its power to make you feel bad. This is a fact. This happened to many people, and this is by fact. It happens to all of them. But we have to do this thing, this action we have to take of thinking. If we don't change the perspective, we don't change the questions, we are not going to get any any liberation from the problem. Any knowledge we can't extract from the problem, and unless we extract the knowledge, we will not be liberated. We will not get clarity from that problem. And one thing, if I may say, this is my experience, and many other such experienced souls I have talked to would agree to this, had agreed to this, and maybe I had also read about it probably as well later on. Why something? So if you may have noticed this, something keeps on happening to you again and again, again and again, again and again. The same situation you are thrust into again and again, again and again. And normally these situations are something which makes you feel bad. That's why you remember. You won't remember something which makes you feel good. So something which makes you feel bad, you will see that you are facing that same situation again and again. Why it happens? It happens because you are not liberated from that situation, and nature wants you to come out of that situation. It wants to train you. It gives you one more chance to come out of that situation, to get liberated from that situation. So falling into the same crisis or same personal problem again and again is basically a chance given to you by, if you may call, a divinity or nature or whatever you can call, the greater power that is there around us. So it is a chance given to you to liberate, to gain knowledge from that particular situation, to understand that particular situation from a different perspective, and gain knowledge from that situation, and help uh, and that knowledge will liberate you from that particular situation. So that is why this thing keeps on happening to us, so that we can actually come out of it. We can actually raise ourselves up from that particular level where we had been. So we had been in a particular level of our thought, of our mind, in which a particular situation bothers us so much and so much, and suddenly if we get liberated from that particular situation, our mind rises to a certain other level, and then we can look down on the same situation, and it doesn't affect us anymore. So this is how nature helps us to rise up, to raise our levels, our mental levels, to a different, to a higher one, and help us grow. So that is one of the purposes of the human existence, to grow, to raise up and up and up. So this is I am sure you would agree to this. We don't want to stay at a particular level all the time. We want to raise ourselves. Only we can raise ourselves from a particular situation only when we solve that particular situation. When we solve that situation which makes us feel bad, which makes us feel worse. We solve it, we get clarity about it, immediately we will get liberated from it, and we will rise up from that level. The same situation will not be able to affect us anymore. So I hope these pictures are self-explanatory. What I'm trying to show here is that when the problem is there are some lot of different vegetables lying around in a cluttered way, and when we think, we actually structure these vegetables and we group this in different vegetables. We group them separately, and then when we gain some experience, that is like cooking the food. So the food gets cooked now, so it is well made, so we are liberated. We are liberated of this, of those vegetables, of these raw vegetables, and we experience the taste of this problem. Basically, we have a tasty experience of the problem that was nagging us, the tasty experience being getting liberated from that problem. What are the some problems? You can find your own problems, but these are some problems that you can think about. So we have seen this a lot. People shouting at each other. Why do they shout at each other when they are angry? Sometimes we don't feel very good. Something may have happened to us. Why do we feel the way we do? These are the why questions. So some of the what questions can be: what is the nature of the argument? What is the nature of an argument in general? In general, what is the nature of an argument? Does it require people to shout at each other? Of course, there was an argument happening. That is why people were angry, because their points were not being taken well. So that is why the argument is taking place. But does the nature of an argument require people to shout at each other? So this is something you can think about. Why we feel the way we do. So instead of the why question, we can also ask the what question. What shapes our thought process? Is there an alternate line of thought? So something may have shaped our thought process in such a way that a particular situation makes us feel very bad. If we can find out that thing which has shaped our thought process, we may immediately it immediately leads us to clarity, that this is the reason behind me feeling bad, and not what I am thinking is making me feeling bad. Perhaps my upbringing or the way I look at the world is the reason behind it, is what shapes my thought process, and that is what makes me feel bad about a particular situation. So when we recognize, we can also ask, is there an alternate line of thought? Not everyone will think the same way, so there must be an alternate line of thought. You can try to discover it and adopt it if it does good to you. Why to stick to something which is not serving you well? Be it your own thought process, you can easily push that aside and adopt a new thought process. That becomes your new thought process, your own thought process. You can always change yourself. You can adopt something, you should adopt something which serves you well. If it does not serve you, if it makes you go into a situation feeling bad and making your own life and other people's lives suffer, so you should reject that thought process. But before that, you should identify that thought process which is causing the harm. What are the how questions? For the argument purpose, how can we correctly handle an argument without shouting? So when we know the nature of the argument, we can then sit back and think about it. So this is the nature of the argument. So I need to maintain these principles of argument. So I can actually maintain these principles without shouting. So how can we correctly do that? So that would be the correct way of dealing with an argument. Similarly, you can pose the how question like this: how could you have responded better in a past situation? So when we think about why we feel so bad about a particular situation, we can also think about, since we feel bad, how we can respond better so that we don't feel bad when the same situation happens again. So this is what we can also think about. So as I already mentioned, that thinking is important, it's very important, and I think also I stressed about some of the things why thinking is important, because we don't want to make our brains sit idle and make it sleep off, and make it be a dull organ in our body when it has such huge capacity. We must explore it. We must explore our brains, and exploring our brains means to pass every situation through the four pillars of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. That is what it means. So, observation, questioning, reasoning, and learning. If we can pass every information through all these four processes, then our brain remains active, remains thinking, and we should not waste it. So that is one answer to this question, why thinking is important. However, there are other answers, because if we don't think, we can actually create a lot of damage. And there has been lots and lots of examples where a lack of thought, what the lack of thought has done to this world, and we know about many different examples, and I will only highlight a few. You can also search and look into your own lives, your own personal lives, where a lack of thought has caused sufferings to you and people close to you. So it might have happened. So and looking at the society, you can readily identify so many different things where you have a comment that this could have been done better. So we readily recognize that there has been a lack of thought behind something which has led to something drastically something very drastic, and something which made many people suffer or made the environment suffer. So what has the lack of thought done to this world? Let us see some examples. What is this? This is the Hiroshima Nagasaki bombing. So this is the first test, like without so first in the First World War, they dropped the atom bomb in Hiroshima Nagasaki. So didn't they think what would happen to the whole world? Didn't they think of all the people whose lives would be lost, and the generations would suffer because of this one simple action of pressing the button? What do you think? So certainly a lot of thought had went behind in pressing the button, but those thoughts were not a positive thought. So we want to stress on these factors. We must think in a positive manner, which will help others, which will be of value to others, which will give value to others, which will make other people's lives as well as your own life a better one. We don't want to be destructive in our thoughts. We want to be constructive. We want to be supportive. We want to be helping. We want to be caring in our thoughts. So that is why thinking is important. So if we think, we would have spared this extremely disappointing event could have been spared from the history of our civilization. This is something which is happening, global warming, and still there is no collective agreement to leading to the solution of global warming. Some countries are still not coming into taking action towards global warming. Still, for deforestations and forest fires are happening, clearing of forests are happening. So this global warming will lead us where? So we have to think about it. So luckily some world leaders are giving importance to this thought and trying to formulate a solution. But this is something which has come across because of our lack of thought. Because of our lack of thought, this has come across. Pollution, plastic pollution more so. Pollution and plastic pollution, even in the seas, what it has done to our earth. So so we don't think about it, how it is going to affect the environment, and if the environment gets affected, we are also in the same ecology, so the ecology will affect each one of us. It will not leave us aside. So this is where the thinking had gone, must have had gone, but unfortunately it had not. So only recently these issues are getting taken up, and sustainable technological progress is what is being stressed upon, not simple technological progress. So only focusing on progress and technology without giving an eye on sustainability will not help us. It will destroy the world. What is this? This is some phenomenon that keeps on happening, especially in the Indian subcontinent, some or the other year after another. So this is the phenomenon of riots that keep on happening here and there, because one community does not like another community, and suddenly a spark of violence, and everyone is so rampant. Suddenly everyone is up in arms. So what do they think before going to their neighbor's house and killing them off? So this sort of mindless actions are still seen in the country. They are still very much present, and we live in the society where we are reported of such incidences. And I don't know if someone of you may have experienced this as well, but this is a very unfortunate situation in which our country still is dealing with. So, so why this is happening? So some thought needs to be given behind it before taking this sort of actions, before going into this sort of activities. So whoever gets involved in such things clearly don't have the right attitude of thinking. They think in a very destructive manner. So we need to come out, we need to dissociate ourselves from this sort of destructive modes of thinking and go towards a constructive mode of thinking. So the constructive mode of thinking is where we pass an information through all the different pillars, and we solve the problem rather than aggravating it. So we gain some wisdom, we gain some knowledge out of it. So 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 that is the constructive mode of thinking. And so that is what I wanted to stress upon, and we should all be aware of this, um, what I can say, that these destructive modes of thinking we should be aware of, and never let ourselves get into the trap of this sort of thoughts. Though these sort of thoughts may have too much a great passion behind them, but we must reject that passion. We must understand that this passion is destructive. It does not lead us to any um, liberation, to any revelation, and to any wisdom. This does not. And here, as students of knowledge, as aspirers of knowledge, we must try to avoid ourselves into getting into um, such influences which might lead our thoughts to turn negative towards a certain thing, or towards a certain community, towards certain people. We should avoid that very consciously. And this sort of experiences we should not try to give to our fellow people and to our younger generations, to the generations to come. So we must be responsible. We must try to avoid ourselves. At the very best, what we can do is to stop ourselves from being influenced by uh, by riots, um, by such thoughts like partitioning thoughts, or divisive line of thoughts. We should try to dissociate ourselves from. We should try to keep ourselves further and further away from such lines of thoughts. We might have people around us, we might have people close to us who believe that a certain other community is the root cause of all our problems. A certain other community and the people of a certain other communities are evil, are bad. This sort of thought process can be there in people who are close to us, but let us not get influenced by those thoughts. So let those thoughts be with them, but let ourselves not be influenced by those thoughts, because they don't serve any purpose. They only serve destruction. They don't serve construction. They don't serve the purpose of being of transforming a problem to solution, and information to knowledge, and make us any wise. So this is where I would like to stop the lecture. And what we have pointed out is the capacity that is within us, which is the power of our brain, and how we can use the great idea or great concept of Purushartha, which in any way we are using all the time, but perhaps not consciously. So when we become conscious of something, we can actually look into the same thing in a different light, and use the same thing in a structured manner. So we can follow the structure of the four Purushartha and look at each and every problem in that manner. We also stressed on the power of perspective, on changing the question. If we have a problem with us, and it is not giving us a solution, we are again going into the problem again and again. So we can change our perspective, and suddenly it might lead us to clarity and liberation. And also we saw what a lack of thought has done to this world, and what a lack of thought could do to ourselves. And since we must think, we must reflect, because we have that organ which is meant to do that. Don't just let it be there without doing anything. So it is such a sheer waste of being born as a human. So um, you feel your potential. You explore your potential as a human being. So only then you will be able to serve the human purpose. And that is how our lives, each of our lives, must be lived. So with that, I end the lecture here, and we'll go into further discussions on this, and eventually we will lead to our course, which is the digital electronics.